Absolute Batman #1 came out last week, and it feels like it was a big hit. It seems like it sold pretty darn well. People were talking about it in a very positive light, and DC has a little bit of enthusiasm, a little momentum that they didn't have previously, which is a good thing. DC could use that. They have not exactly been lighting up the sales charts as of late, but some people seem to have taken an issue with Absolute Batman #1, calling it woke garbage. While I personally think this is a very good comic book and I highly recommend it, I do not think it's without its faults. The moment where you have Alfred saying, "You're no killer," after he literally watched this version of Batman murder 25 people by blowing them up, after they were actually leaving the battle space when he told them to go. You know, he's supposed to be a superhero. First of all, that's a cowardly act to kill people while they're walking away, but also to murder them is very unsuperheroic. But this is a much more violent version of Batman going on here. But there's no way that Alfred would ever think this guy's not a killer. I've literally watched him kill people. I watched him cut them to pieces with surgical precision. He was actually marveling at it. So there are some things about it. And there's one thing in particular that I really don't like. I find it very difficult to call Absolute Batman #1 woke garbage. This is all coming out of this one panel where we meet Absolute Barbara Gordon. We see Jim Gordon, not commissioner, but it looks like he's running for mayor. There's a young female black police officer. And he yells Barbara once the party animals show up and start shooting the place up. And then she responds with Dad, obviously confirming that the new Barbara Gordon in the Absolute Universe is in fact now black. Does race swapping a character in 2024 mean that the comic book or the story or the movie or the TV series or the animation or the video game is automatically woke garbage? Not in my book. This is an alternate universe, a multiverse, and one of the best ways to demonstrate that you're in an alternate universe or a multiverse is visual cues. If you watch Fringe, they do it with the Statue of Liberty, you know, being like gold, and you have Zeppelins flying around because obviously that crash never happened. You got Zeppelins going around New York. So as soon as you see those, you know you're in a different universe. In this particular case, Gotham kind of looks the same. You need a visual cue. You do have a 7'2", 350-pound Batman, which certainly might be enough. But now you have a race swap character. And if we're going to say that anytime you have a race swap character in a comic book means that you've written woke garbage, we're going to have to retroactively put some woke garbage like fucking titles on some legends, some heavyweights, some Hall of Famers by the name of like a Stan Lee. You know, he did race swap Batman in the Stan Lee Presents DC Comics. He did a race swap. Certainly Mark Miller race swap Nick Fury in the Ultimates, because it is an alternate universe, and that's one of the best ways to visually cue up that you're reading something in an alternate universe. Take something familiar and make it different. Changing the race of a character certainly does that. Is it very modern? Is it very 2024? Is it very 2016? Is it very 2020 on Scott Snyder's part? Absolutely. Yes, taking a redheaded character and making them black, especially if they're female, is the most modern thing in the world. There's a reason that meme of Disney remaking the Dublin Redhead Festival is so funny, because it is very, very true to life. It's almost happening all the time. So while it's certainly very modern, it's very eye-rolling, it's very predictable, and it's kind of lame on the part of Scott Snyder to not even try to do anything unique or different, to just do the same exact trope that everybody else, not only in comic books, but in television, animation, video games, and movies are doing. That doesn't make it woke garbage, in my opinion. If you would like to see what I would consider woke garbage, and I don't call things woke garbage often on the channel. In fact, I don't think I really ever do that. But if you went back and you read Batgirl 50 by Cecil Castellucci, now we're talking about woke garbage territory. If you want to see exactly what gets in there, in my opinion, a more recent example would have been Dazzler #1 from Jason Lowe over at Marvel Comics. Now that is some fucking woke garbage right there. That is hitting you so hard over the head with the message that you can't even think straight because it's been a fucking sledgehammer. That's woke garbage to me. In this case, it hasn't happened yet. Can I see Scott Snyder having this version of Barbara Gordon check Jim on his white privilege and talk down to him and lecture him on the plight of marginalized people? Yes, I could see Scott Snyder doing that, because he does seem to be kind of fearful of black people, especially when he's writing them. But he hasn't done it yet. He doesn't do it often in his work. In fact, if you were to put the odds of that happening, I think it's far less greater that that would happen than it would. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's going to happen within the comic books, but it certainly doesn't happen here. Now, if we're talking about stuff that really annoyed me, this is the thing that pissed me off. Pissed off is kind of like an overstatement. That annoyed the crap out of me because I did really like the comic book. As DC introduces its wild new take on Batman, fans officially meet the absolute Joker. And this continuity Joker is a billionaire who, like the mainstream Batman, has traveled the world honing his skills. The comic explains that he's called Joker because the guy never laughs, not at anything, ever, with the implication that he's prone to killing anyone who shows a sense of humor in his presence. While the mainstream Joker never stops laughing and presents his murderous crimes as comedy, the new absolute Joker is his opposite, a grim killer who won't allow any levity in his presence. The comic confirms Joker trained with and subsequently slaughtered Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins, making it clear that he's already one of the most skilled and deadly people in the world. This is in the epilogue, the very final page of the comic book, and for me, it was completely unwelcome. I enjoyed the book. I had some fun with it. The action was good. The art was fantastic. The art was literally perfect. But when I got to the absolute Joker part, I was like, come on, why did you end it on such a lame note? At this point, we've been introduced to absolute Batman, absolute Alfred, absolute Jim Gordon, absolute Killer Croc, absolute Two-Face, absolute Salid, absolute Martha, absolute Barbara Gordon. We've met a lot of different absolute versions of characters, including absolute Black Mask and his weird entourage of maybe family members and aliens. I'm not really sure what that was. We did not need absolute Joker in this book whatsoever. Now, the Joker is going to be hanging over everything because he is not only the biggest villain in Batman, he's the biggest villain in comic books and a brand unto himself. Certainly not as big as Batman, but a pretty damn big brand. And it was completely unnecessary. In my opinion, you did not need this to have a fantastic comic book. And I would have waited at a minimum a year before even introducing the idea that an absolute Joker exists. Of course, we all know it's there because it's the Joker and it has to be, but I would have waited a long time to really pop the fucking crowd on that one and really get people excited instead of throwing it in on the very last page. And of course, because if modern writers created Batman in 2024, he would not be allowed to have money. You know, the original incarnation of Bruce Wayne Batman would be a villain now. And now we've basically taken the skin of Joker and threw it on the life experience of Bruce Wayne because it's a modern audience. It's a modern take kind of thing, which I find eye-rolling. I don't think it's woke garbage, but it was absolutely predictable, you know, and it's just one of the lamest takes out there. Just because you have money and you're white does not make you a bad guy. Just because you're brown and you're a marginalized person doesn't make you a good guy. We're all defined by our actions, but so many writers out there are so scared of this weird class thing that's been introduced, not only along earning potential and gender and racial identity and religion, all these kind of things, that you're not allowed to be a good guy. And you can only be a bad guy if you have certain traits, and being rich and white is one of those things. And it was just kind of a lame ass interpretation. You know, they called him the Joker because he never laughs, just like they call a dude that you play poker that doesn't bet action because there is no action. It's just, I don't know. I think it's supposed to be terrifying. I saw an article out there that said it was terrifying. I was like, no, that's just supposed to be ironic, I guess, and not exactly exciting stuff. But me personally, I was thrown off a billion times more by the presence and the appearance and the description of absolute Joker than the two panels of Barbara Gordon that we see her basically doing nothing but being a police officer. It's literally too bad. Somebody who doesn't think any of this was ridiculous is a man that made a ton of fucking money. And I do want to say congratulations to artist Nick Dragotta for taking this one all the way to the bank. Nick Dragotta's original art for the book is the highest grossing of all time for a modern artist. Felix Comic Art revealed on Twitter that Absolute Batman #1 covers sold for a whopping $70,000. For context, covers typically sell for $5,000 to $10,000, depending on the artist. Exact sales figures for Dragotta's entire art for the issue are not yet privy to the public, but it is estimated to be a lot. What does a lot mean? I'm not really sure, but it sounds like every single original page of Absolute Batman was actually sold by Nick Dragotta. And I think that's awesome. It's awesome that enough people are excited about a book. They see the art and they're like, I want a piece of that. I want it in my home. I want to own a piece of what I think is going to be something special moving forward. And I'm glad that Nick Dragotta was able to cash out on that sumbitch and make some really, really big time cash. Because Nick Dragotta has been a very, very awesome comic book artist for a very, very long time that has not gotten his credit or due and is finally getting his big opportunity at DC Comics on Absolute Batman, and I think he nailed it as well as anybody could have possibly nailed this concept of Batman being so hulking and large, with the Doc Ock tentacle like cape thing. He walks on them like tentacles. He can grab things like tentacles. It's basically he's got Doc Ock technology on him, and he made it look really good. Not everybody could have done that, and I think it's awesome to see an artist really rewarded for their very, very hard work. And it's awesome to see that people got very excited and wanted to have a piece of that as well. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to Scott Snyder. You didn't fuck it up. You passed the homework. People are calling it woke garbage, but I would vehemently disagree with that assessment. In this particular case, if you would like to see what I do consider woke garbage, I have an example for you right here. Doc and I actually reviewed Dazzler #1 from Jason Liu. If you want to see just how woke garbage can get, this is the video for you.